Sahara Group, a leading international energy and infrastructure conglomerate with operations in over 38 countries across Africa, Middle East, Europe, and Asia, is celebrating its 25th anniversary today. Its power subsidiary, Sahara Power Group, is the largest privately held power company in sub-Saharan Africa. These include the 1,320 megawatts Egbin thermal power station in Lagos, 4 thermal power plants in River State with an installed capacity of 541 megawatts, and the largest electricity distribution company in Nigeria, Ikeja Electric Plc. In addition to its interest in the power sector, the Sahara Group has expansive investments in the upstream, midstream, and downstream segments of the oil and gas sector. Now joining us to intimate us on the company's 25-year foray in the energy sector, new ventures under consideration, and how the Petroleum Industry Act is likely to impact Sahara Group's future prospects is Kola Adesina, Executive Director of the Group and Chairman of Ikeja Electric Plc. Good morning and welcome to the show, Mr. Adesina.
Good morning.
Well, Kola Adesina, congratulations, 25 years. That must have been quite a journey. And look, when you look back now, what are the key lessons for you, the things that are important to you as your group celebrates 25 years in both the electricity sector and the oil and gas sector, and also as an employer of labor in the Nigerian space?
Yeah, thank you very much for the opportunity of this interview. 25 years of hard-work labor, serious task, uphill, mountainous periods. We've had difficulties and challenges, but from the humble background, we started 23rd of August 1996. Here we are 25 years later, thankfully impacting lives, creating legacies, and ensuring that we deliver value to the people we serve. Right from the outset, it was primarily just as similar to every company that is established. It was just a paper company, but by and large, driven by vision, tenacity of purpose, clarity of thought, and the enterprise of our staff, those that have made things possible for us. We've been able to elevate ourselves from what we were to what we are today. We see Africa, Nigeria, particularly as a gold mine of which we've only tapped bronze. So we are still exploring opportunities to becoming better than we are today. At the outset, it was primarily just for us to be able to transact documents, push papers around, but we realized that that was not going to add value that we desire to achieve and give to the society in which we live. Hence, we moved on to something more tangible, which electricity is a critical component. Of course, we all know that Africa is still referred to as a continent that is largely in darkness. So it's imperative for us to see that as an opportunity and equally as a challenge. So for some of us, we've taken it as a mantra, as a vision, as a call that we must ensure we light up Africa. It's been a journey, it's been exciting, but we really thank God and we thank our staff for taking us this far.
Well, I'd like to get into more like a personal account of that, but I'll come back to that later. Since it's topical, I'd like to start with the Petroleum Industry Act and how you feel that it will enhance your operations. What's your perspective on that?
Well, happily, for about 11 years or so, the Petroleum Industry Act is something that was the topical issue. Of course, the benefit of the PIA, as we call it today, is that it opens up the opportunity for the industry to have clarity. There is openness now, and it's an open field for those who have the capacity to deliver and add value where value needs to be added. The physical terms embedded in the PIA are clearer and better. They are quite far more inviting for investors to come into the space and to be able to exploit the natural resources available for the benefit of Nigerians most importantly. The way we see the PIA is that it's an opportunity for us to leverage on relationship and create new JVs that will be able to deliver the value and the promise that oil represents to Nigeria. Of course, quite a number of people will still have criticisms here and there, but for us, we never ever shy away from taking opportunities and seeing greatness even where people are saying something so terrible. So we are very glad we're ready to be able to explore and take advantage of the PIA as it is today. We're putting together strategies that you will see and you will definitely celebrate with us shortly.
I'd like to talk to you about the power sector. I mean, you got into the power sector a couple of years back. How's that journey been like for you? And a lot of Nigerians would like to ask, what have been the challenges for you in the power sector?
First, what were we doing before the power sector? We were selling diesel. Of course, there was the emergency power plant project in Abuja, where we had to support the generator with diesel supply for about 30 months. At that material time, it became obvious to us that we cannot really add the value we desire to add to the Nigerian nation by just supplying diesel, that it is imperative for us to move away from diesel supply to generating and distributing electricity itself. So at that material time, I'll tell you, it was one of the projects I call one of the most daunting projects I've had the privilege of handling. We were pushing at least every day 10 trucks of diesel from different locations into the various turbines, generators that were brought by Geometric and Agreco. We now realize that that's not something that is sustainable. The cost was humongous. The logistic nightmare associated with this was something scary. Of course, that led us into having to develop our own strategy that we now call a connected strategy for power generation and distribution. At the outset, the ambition was tall, it was huge. We wanted to quickly, rapidly improve on the power sector because we felt at that time that generation capacity was the main issue that we needed to work on. Of course, as time went by, we realized that there were other issues that now came up. The financial issues, the liquidity issues, the tariff was not right. Of course, it became imperative that the investment we desire to make, we couldn't make as much as we wanted to. We had planned from day one to double the capacity of Egbin. When we we took over the power plant, it was generating averagely about 400 megawatts, but today it's doing about 1,000 megawatts. Of course, the doubling of that capacity would have increased it to about 3,400 megawatts of electricity. But as time went by, we realized that there were quite a number of other issues downstream. There wasn't any regulatory clarity, and we had so many policy somersaults that we had to deal with as an organization. Challenges here, challenges there, but today things have gotten better because part of what we now decided to do was that we felt you shouldn't boil the ocean, that we should first incrementally, cluster by cluster, start to make the promises we made to the Nigerian public realizable, and we started delivering. We started with a Magodo location and Ikeja GRA, where we improved the power supply from previously averagely of about 13, 14 hours to about 22, 23, 24 hours, as the case may be. So today, some of the things we had given by way of a pledge of improving the sector, we started out with that in Ikeja GRA. So it's been very exciting, I must say, very challenging, but we are ready to really deliver 24/7 electricity to the Nigerian people.
Well, I'm still on Petroleum Industry Act. For the past week or so on this program, we've been focusing on some of the issues and the reactions. But I'd like to ask you, since you are in that a big player in that sector, what is the future of oil? I mean, we're all talking about 3%, we're talking about 30%, we're talking about revenue, but shouldn't we also be focusing on things like renewable energy, artificial intelligence, agricultural production, and the energy transition in Africa? And Nigeria also, perhaps.
Thank you very much, Ruben, for that. Interestingly, what you just captured in the last few seconds represent the vision we've articulated for ourselves as an organization going forward. We realize that oil as a natural resource is limited, is exhaustible. Invariably, at a point in time in the future, we won't have oil again in Nigeria. Invariably, as an organization that is forward-looking, we've begun effort in diversifying our portfolio through renewable energy because of the fact that we now see Sahara as a platform And as a platform, the vision is for us to have an hybridized platform where we would have grid solution, renewable solution, off-grid, mini-grid, and all sorts. Because the primary purpose for our own existence is to make the customer happy. Once the customer experience is excellent, then we know we've delivered on the promise we've made. Energy transition is something that is not just topical to us, it's something we're currently doing. If you pay a visit to Egbin power plant today, part of what you're going to see is that the environment is going green. Because we equally realize that in order for us to sustain humanity, there is a need for us to decarbonize our environment and reduce the emission that is causing so much of havoc globally. As probably you may know, you will see that so much of flood alerts here and there, natural disasters of different nature. Some of the land that people used to habit have been taken over by the desert. So much is happening in that space. In order for us to live an environment that is purely clean, we are equally diversifying our portfolio into that space. However, it needs to be said and very clearly and openly. Energy transition comes at a phase for different nations at different times. Where we are today in Nigeria, we're not in the European states, nor in the American states of affairs of play in energy consumption. Energy access is still a challenge. For as long as that remains a challenge, and for as long as we have gas in abundant quantity, it invariably means we need to exploit and explore that for the purpose of ensuring that there's stable, steady supply of power. So we're going to transit in a logical manner. We're going to move in a manner that will ensure that first and foremost, the people that have electricity today, they have more number of hours. Those that don't have, they begin to have access to that power, and ultimately it becomes affordable for all to enjoy stable supply of electricity.
Well, gas constraints are a huge clog in the wheel. I'd like you to expand on that. I also wanted to talk about your response to Rufai's question, which is your intention to supply 24-hour electricity to Nigerians. I don't doubt the sincerity of your intentions, but you're not the only stakeholder. Let's talk about how your efforts to effect this are being hampered. All 11 discos have been operating at a loss. We do know that privatization, you're in it for the long run. It's a long game. But it's been 8 years since the federal government privatized, and we're not reaching the milestones that we ought to reach. So what exactly are the problems besetting the discos?
Okay, the distribution sector represents the last mile in the value chain before the consumer. Of course, it's the atlas, so to speak, of the sector, because the weight of the entire sector is carried by the distribution company. As we speak today, part of the problem the distribution companies are suffering from, first is the fact that the population of Nigeria is growing geometrically. Is our infrastructure concomitantly growing in that ratio? The answer you know better than I. Now, for as long as you continue to have steady growth in population and stagnancy of the infrastructure, you will continue to have the kind of pressure we're suffering from in the electricity space. If you take a comparative analysis of some of the other nations similar to Nigeria in terms of population, and you look at the quantum of energy that they're generating in these various countries, you'll see the dissimilarity in terms of the energy that is made available as against the population. But as we speak today, one of the things we've began to see is the fact that there is more collaboration unlike before. Part of the problem of the sector was lack of alignment. When you have a value chain, in a value chain, none of the market participants should drop the ball. Once somebody drops the ball in that value chain, you will be in the dark. So invariably, you need to have an integrity analysis done in a manner as to be able to confirm truly the state of infrastructure, the state of play, as against the population that you need to serve. So part of the problem we had, and which we are now overcoming, is the fact that there was no collaborative effort in the sector. The president, the vice president, the governor of CBN, the minister of finance, the regulators, and the minister of power, they've all come together now to realize that, look, we must start to speak with one voice. So today, we now have a template we're working with, which is working and which is obviously improving the sector performance in terms of the metrics that we need to measure. Just like I mentioned to you earlier, Magodo is improving, Ikeja GRA is improving. We have a new collaborative effort we're putting together with Lagos State government, which would ensure that there will be steady supply of electricity to some locations that we started identifying. And again, the other distribution companies are equally doing exactly the same thing in different ways in their own different locations. But today, because we meet regularly, through the office of the Ministry of Finance and the CBN governor directly intervening, they were the ones that sit at this meeting. They've made money available where money is required, most especially from the perspective of investment in the infrastructure, in curing that defect and deficiency. Metering has gone up and is moving. The trajectory is going up every day. Previously, about 62% of Nigerians were not metered. We now have just about 55%, so invariably we're moving in that space. You will see that there is enhancement of the network. You will see that the customer experience is improving because of the fact that today, touch button, you see quite a number of our staff coming up to remedy whatever faults they see within the different locations. But the question has always been the price. The price. If the price of electricity cannot cover the cost of providing electricity, it's mission impossible. So until we cure the defect in pricing electricity ultimately, we're not likely to see El Dorado as we desire to see. However, something that needs to be said is this, because again, we are consumers ourselves, so invariably we have empathy at stake. We are equally enjoying the same supply that everybody enjoys. What most Nigerians need to see and know today is that high price will happen at the point of investment in the infrastructure desired, needed to cure the inefficiencies we're seeing. At a point in time, the prices will start to drop because of economies of scale. Because over time, there will be recovery of the investment we've made, and then therefore, what naturally should happen, just as it happened in the telecom space, is going to happen here as well. You're going to see serious drop in the tariff once we're able to cure the inefficiency. But to cure the inefficiency, we need to inject cash. The CBN governor, the Minister of Finance, the Office of the Vice President, they're actively supporting us to provide that liquidity that we require at this point in time.
But a lot of people argue with you, Mr. Kola Adesina, that you can't compare like for like, the law of diminishing returns setting in the telecom sector with that in the power sector. Because once you improve on the power sector, then you have to keep incurring more cost because it's very, very volatile. And machinery and cost and things like that are a big problem. You talked about tariff, that's great. But secondly, I also talk about another issue, that can get power closer to the people. We've been touting gas as the next frontier. In terms of generating more power, gas will be the silver bullet. What are you doing as regards gas? And I ask this question deliberately because you work in both space. You are in the energy sector, then you are in the distribution sector. Is there a possibility of you using a lot of gas in the future to be able to power this system? And please, do we need a PIA moment for the Power Act of 2005? Because a lot of industry players are saying that might probably be the problem. Because take, for instance, we don't have the luxury of the liberalization of power generated itself. Why do we have to go to a grid system? Why can't we dismantle the grid system and do other things? We'll go for a quick break. You'll come back, you take on all these issues and you bite on them. We'll be right back after this break. All right, welcome back. In case you just joined us on the Rise News channel, we'll also have Kola Adesina, Executive Director of the group and the Chairman of Ikeja Electric Group. I mean the Sahara Group. It's the 25th anniversary. We're talking about issues around the group and the power sector and the PRA in general. Pleasure to have you once again, Mr. Kola Adesina. So, I had some questions. I talked about the Power Act of 2005. Does it need a PIA moment? Do we need to tweak anything? The fact that we want to do so much in the sector, but we're not using gas, and we keep saying gas is the future. The fact that we need to liberalize the grid. A lot of people find it very appalling, the fact that we produce everything, and we still need to center the grid in this country. And the grid is not efficient itself. I think we just signed a deal with Siemens to be able to expand the grid. We've not seen anything as regards that. Why can't we liberalize? Why can't we tweak? Why can't we innovate? Those are the challenges we face.
Okay, thank you very Part of what you probably would note with regards to the development of technology globally is the fact that we've had several revolutions, the first, second, third, fourth, and fifth revolution, the mechanized one, the industrial one. When we went digital, of course, we're now talking about robotics and the rest of them, and we're going somewhere. We're going into personalization. Over time, if you check the infrastructure evolution globally, you will see that the first domain of influence required for industrialization is for organizations and nations to come together to be able to create an atmosphere, an avenue, an industry where people can truly be engaged. Employment became the order of the day. For us to be able to get there, of course, quite a number of other enablers now had to come in by way of evolution. And the key point I'm trying to stress here is that there is an evolution going on as we speak. Today, the power sector is being driven not just by the grid. You currently have many renewable energy companies that have emerged in the last couple of years, primarily because of the fact that it's realized that the grid alone is not the silver bullet that will solve all the problems with regards to energy security and energy access. Invariably, what is being done is that you have a concurrent strategy being pushed. Now, one of the realities we all came to is the fact that at the outset of renewable energy, the cost was exorbitant. It was very, very high comparative to grid energy. Of course, so much of research is ongoing and has been done to bring down that cost such that it's becoming readily and easily affordable for the people. But comparatively, it's still a bit more expensive. Sometimes in the future, and we're going to be part of that future, enabling that future, renewable energy is going to be cheaper. And once it becomes cheaper, what's going to happen is that you're going to find rural communities that don't have access today, all connected via what? Renewable solution. Mini grid, half grid, and all the decentralized energy opportunities available. But for the industrial users of electricity, it is to be known and accepted as it is today, even globally, where we still have grids operating. It's the grid that powers industry. Big power, big economy. You cannot run industrial plants, petrochemical plants with renewable energy. You can power them today largely with grid power. So that's why I spoke of hybrid solution, which we are creating in the organization, such that for the different level of customers in the hierarchy of needs of electricity, we'll be supplying electricity to those hierarchies on the basis of their consumption. Now, to your question with regards to gas, as we speak, I can tell you this, that so much is being done by those of us in the sector today on the basis of PIA that has just been passed, realizing that yes, the opportunity is now open, the window of opportunity is now open for us to leverage on the fact that the physical terms have all what? They've changed, and they're going to change for the better. We would not be spending more money in that regard. The big octopus, NNPC, has now been made a JV, now have a JV arrangement itself. It's going to be operating from a commercial orientation that it's meant to operate with. Invariably, you're not going to see the kind of flip-flop or excessive or intense interference by government in the business of the upstream oil and gas in the future. So some of these changes are going to crystallize into positive values. Now, when a child is born and that child is 8, that child still needs nurturing. The electricity sector, under privatized entities, we are still going through nurturing. But the key requirement here is this, and thing that we need to measure is the fact that where we were is not where we are today. It's still a long haul, it's a journey, but we will make it happen. Our agenda and our objective is to make 24/7 electricity available to our people. We've started it, we'll widen it in scope, we'll widen it in scale, and Nigerians will benefit from it ultimately.
Well, quickly, you've talked about infrastructure. You also talked earlier on about tariffs in the electricity sector. Now, costs reflective tariff, that has been a major issue. And, the federal government and Labour have both been engaged in negotiations over what should be the fully cost-effective tariff in the electricity sector in Nigeria. Are the GENCOs and DISCOs part of that conversation? And where are we with that conversation at this moment? And then the second major issue of interest, I guess, will be the midstream program. Earlier this morning, before you joined us, Rotus Odiri brought up the issue of the meters and the plan to roll out, a second phase of the midstream program. But this again is a major area of concern for many Nigerians. What's the progress in that regard? DISCOs collected about 123 billion, we're told, in March from the Central Bank of Nigeria under the Metering Access Program. But, the DISCOs are more likely to say, oh, it's not the responsibility of the DISCOs, and they are not involved. And in some places, people still report that they have to pay for meters, whereas the federal government says those meters that have been rolled out will be free.
Thank you very much. With regards to the collaborative effort of government with Labour and ourselves, I can say that is ongoing as we speak. The agenda for alignment and collaboration is actually all-inclusive. It's not one that's just limited to market participants. So Labour is equally at the table regarding some of the decisions that you are seeing or the outcomes that you're seeing today in terms of the development in the sector. With regards to tariff, the conversation is always ongoing. It's not going to just end just like that, primarily again because of the fact that a critical component by way of assumption and parameter that guides tariffing universally is the exchange rate. So the exchange rate will still continue to be a critical component in our own cost structure. And as long as that is, so we'll continue to have conversation around the tariff in terms of what price the consumers will pay. So today, I will say the conversation is ongoing, is all-inclusive. It is not just limited to the market participants. We will see the outcome pretty soon. However, part of what you probably would note in terms of tariffing is the fact that the federal government took a decision recently, which was announced, in terms of the gas cost, the gas price itself. There has been a reduction in that because, again, government felt once, just like I said earlier, an investment has been made, there's an amortization period, there's a recovery period of that investment. Once that investment has been recovered, you cannot continue to charge the whole rate that you were charging. So, of course, that has led to the gas tariff to come down significantly by about 32 cents. So we're going to be paying to the gas supplier going forward to $18. So that is part of the tariffing conversation that you're going to be seeing, and collaborative efforts leading to reduction in the tariff in order for it to make it affordable to the consumer. In terms of metering, what government has done is this. The government said they didn't pay the distribution companies. The government is not handing money to the distribution companies to go and procure meter. What government has done is that they've brought all the metering companies together in collaboration with the DISCOs to highlight the number of meters each of the distribution companies require for them to make their customers happy. And all of us have signed contracts and agreements with different meter sub-providers, and those are the people that receive the money from government. So the DISCOs are not being paid that money. Again, like I always say, just like metering itself, metering is an instrument of trust. It's an instrument that addresses trust. So until we're able to build that trust again in the sector, I'm sure the DISCOs would not really want to directly take money from anybody in order to be able to achieve any part of our services that might become controversial in the future. So we are not the ones collecting that money. Now, speaking of 24/7 electricity, again, Metering is just a component. We require transformers. The lines are old. The lines don't connect with some other consumers or customers that have emerged. Nigeria is growing. The landscape, a new set of customers are emerging in different locations. So the infrastructure that is needed to ensure that they have access to electricity needs to be put in place. All these are issues that we deal with as an organization. But there is a part that most people hardly speak to. That I've metered your home is not indicative of the fact that I'm going to receive commensurate revenue for the energy I've dispensed to you. How are we curing the issue of energy theft in Nigeria? For as long as consumers and free riders are largely dominating the different distribution assets by way of users and consumers of electricity without paying for the price, paying for the commodity that has been utilized, we'll continue to have challenges. And part of what we really need to have by way of all-inclusive conversation around the issue of electricity, particularly, is the value system that needs to be addressed. Because we realize, sadly, and this is would really be pathetic to note, that those who are actually bypassing our meters are largely those who can afford to pay for electricity. So it tells you something is wrong somewhere. Of course, the cost of policing, monitoring, and surveilling the system to ensure that we catch those people is going to be added to the tariff. So the higher the number of energy thieves we have in the system, the higher will be the tariff. So part of what the consumers who would desire to see as customers should do for us is to start to pay for electricity. It's not a free commodity. For discipline to be maintained, you need to begin to cultivate the habit of not just using a commodity, but paying for that commodity. Charity begins at home. I think it's something we need to really engage the media to help us in this regard.
Well, this is why Ikeja Electric Plc instituted a whistleblower program to, capture and mitigate the energy thieves. How's it going? You launched that in February, I believe. Yeah. How is that going? That's my first question. And my second question is about the president of NLC, Nigeria Labour Congress, and the fact that he has rejected that reduction you just referred to from $2.18, and he's demanding a reduction to $1.50. What's your take on that?
Okay, let me take the last one first. The lower the gas cost, the better for me, even as an organization, because ultimately, remember, I run a business, and I want my cost to come down. I would be a chief advocate of a reduction of a dramatic nature that the NLC president is seeking for. However, I won't just be emotional about that request or desire. It is important that we equally interrogate the cost of producing and making gas available to the power companies. Until that is done, there must be an economic analysis around that cost. If the costs that were incurred were prudently incurred by the gas suppliers and confirmed, then the price can come out of that particular exercise. Until we do that, we cannot just wave of the hand, willy-nilly, emotionally just ask for any price. So it's not something I would really want to subscribe to. Equally, please note, a reduced gas price is a reduced tariff for the consumers and the customers to pay. So we are really willing to see that happen, but it must be done in a manner that aligns with the economics of business itself. Now, with regards to whistleblowing, yes, we launched that. And we've begun to see a lot of support, really, from communities, most especially where you have communities and associations. They are really keen in ensuring that we get the benefit of the services we're providing. We've had quite a number of communities even visit our location just to say thank you for the level of support and improved services that they are receiving, and that they are equally willing to collaborate with us to ensure that truly the value we're bringing to them is a value that is sustainable. It's working, but we can do better than that. And we can do better from a legal perspective, because really and truly, if you steal electricity, you are a thief. So a thief is a thief. Whether it's electricity, whether it's money or whatever, a thief is a thief. So the way a thief is dealt with if they steal money is the way a thief should be dealt with if they steal electricity. So it's from a legal enforcement, the enforcement side of it, that will really truly will and desire that more teeth be given to the enforcement with regards to those that steal electricity. And there is still another point that maybe I might just mention, which aligns with this as well. A lot of times we ask and say that, look, we don't have electricity, we don't have light. If you don't have light, if your neighbor is the cause of you not having that light, are you just going to sit back and allow him to put you in the dark? No. Rather, you need to be fully involved in our business. So what are we clamoring for? We want better customer engagement with us. We want to have not just an episodic relationship with our customer. We want to have a relationship with our customer, such that we'll have few occasions where we'll have hiccups and the rest of them, but we are fully interacting on a daily basis, on a regular basis, to ensure that they have 24/7 electricity. We need our people, our customers, to be aligned with us.
Let's also address the monster of estimated billing system, which is another one. Some people argue that the companies now take a lot from the customers in estimated billing. I mean, what would you say about that? And congratulations on 25 years of Sahara. Started up, like you said, by selling diesel. Now it's become power production. What will be the next 25 years like? What will the next 25 years be like for Sahara? What are you guys envisaging? New pathways in the energy sector? Maybe probably geothermal? What will it be? You just look into a crystal ball. I know you don't have anyone in front of you.
Okay. The first question, estimated billing, that's always a very topical, emotional topic issue. There's no sane, decent distribution company that would want to promote the anomaly of estimated billing. And the reason being that energy accounting is a critical component in the services we are rendering to the public. Energy flows in one direction, revenue must flow in the opposite direction, and they must capture each other. There must be a meeting point between the two. Once you have that kind of a system, then you have a system that is really good, that is dependable, that is reliable, and that can be trusted. Estimated billing is a product of, I'm sorry to say, the price. Because you want me to meter, it's going to cost me money. It's coming at a cost. It's not free. So are you really willing to pay the right price for me to do all that I need to do in order to ensure that you have sustainable supply of power? But like I said, the government agencies, the CBN governor, the Minister of Finance, the BPE, NERC, the Office of the Vice President, and the President himself, they are all working aggressively to ensure that we all meter and then we eradicate completely the issue of estimated billing. Regarding the organization, where we are today and what I see in the future. What I see in the future is one where we will not just be a dominant player, we'll be active, we'll be supportive. There will be a symbiotic relationship between us and our customer. It's one where the customer experience will be such that the same way people shout at the end of matches, of football matches, up Chelsea, up United, they will be saying up Sahara in the future. We want to be able to put a flag of efficiency and clear customer experience, good customer care in the houses, in the homes, in the businesses of all our customers. We see ourselves promoting innovation actively, Internet of Things, robotic engineering, nanotechnology. We see ourselves ensuring that we put smart infrastructure around our customers and making them feel better. Everybody seeks happiness. Sahara, in the next 25 years, will be promoting the culture of happiness of our customers. We would desire to see a situation where totally green is Nigeria, is Africa, and the environment in which we operate. We would want to see a culture where our staff will truly, consistently, happily deliver the services that would make them proud, make their families proud, make the organization proud, make Nigeria proud, make the African man proud. We would want to operate in New York. We would want to be listed in stock market out there, and we would want to be number one. As you see us today, you're going to see something better, something richer, something fuller, something more engaging, something more productive from this organization. We would want to ensure that as an organization, we're a reference point for quality. It is our aspiration to make the black man proud. We wouldn't want, and we don't want, to see Africans from a negative lenses that we are currently viewed as a people and as a continent. It is our desire that G1 will be Nigeria. We want to put Nigeria before the world positively.
Well, lofty plans there, and certainly all of that is achievable. But we've talked about many subjects. I guess the only one we've not really focused on is the regulatory environment. How friendly is the regulatory environment? Is there a proper master plan for developing the power sector in Nigeria? What have been your challenges in this regard? Because earlier this year, there was talk about the NELC, there were issues with NBET, and at one point it was the Central Bank of Nigeria.
Okay, I'd alluded to this fact earlier, and I'll just reiterate it at this point in time. Where we were wasn't a pleasant place to be as an organization, but where we are is far better than where we were. Because today, the collaborative agenda, the integration of the system is far better than what we even envisaged from the get-go. Regulatory clarity is becoming something we're beginning to see. Why? Because we're engaging on a daily basis. After this conversation today here, I have another engagement with my regulators. So there is a daily interaction in terms of regulation today within the business. It's better than what it used to be, but we're looking forward to it becoming even better than it is today. So our aspiration primarily is just to ensure that the customer is happy. How do we make the customer happy? Regulation should help us make the customer happy.
So a customer-centric company is always good to hear. I wanted to know, as you reflect on your 25th anniversary, what the highlights have been for you. I definitely have to ask about highlights, challenges, and surprises. What would you say has shocked you in your 25 years?
Okay, let me start with what shocked me. I will say the depth of decay of the electricity infrastructure was a big shocker for me. I really didn't anticipate the level of the decay and backwardness of infrastructure. That was a bit daunting, I must confess. But in terms of what has delighted me the most, is the fact that we went to a customer, and the customer said to us that he's not used his generator for almost 1 month. That this is the first time ever that he's even looking at doing what? Giving us the generator if we can manage it for him. That has become just a liability to him. That was the best moment for me, really, ever since we started this journey. The other one has been when I see any of our staff deliver value and they are truly full of joy. The value system, the culture of laughter, being nurtured in an environment where people can openly share, engage, and develop new ideas is one that gives me a wow moment as well. Because I tell you, anytime any of our staff just come up with something that we say, oh, that's an eureka time. It's something that really actually has made me happy as a person, and as an organization has made us better. We have chosen and elected to follow the road less traveled, and thankfully it has led us to something brilliant.
Well, thank you very much, Kola Adesina, Chairman, Ikeja Electricity PLC. We congratulate you once again as you begin the journey to the next 25 years. Thank you for joining us.